What's up, everybody? Welcome back, episode 4. I just want to take a second before we get into anything today and say thank you. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. When I started this podcast, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to put on an episode every single day and get to 180 episodes by December 31st. And I want you to know I am keeping that promise. But what I did not expect, what I could not have predicted when I sat down to record that very first episode, was how much I was going to enjoy this journey. Episode 1, I was finding my footing, figuring out the mic, figuring out my voice, figuring out what this show even was. Episode 2, I got personal in a way that surprised even me. Talking about ADHD, about autism, about my kids, about the things I've been carrying quietly for a long time. And something about saying those things out loud to you, to whoever is on the other side of this, it felt like putting something down that I'd been holding on to for so long. Episode 3, the Mandela effect, gave me something I was not expecting: energy, genuine excitement. I finished recording that episode and I felt alive in a way that reminded me why I started this in the first place. 4 episodes in, and I can honestly say this is one of the best decisions I've ever made. And that's because of you. The fact that you were here, that you kept coming back, that you were on this journey with me. That means everything. So before we do anything else today, I just want to say thank you for listening, for being here, for making this worth showing up for every single day. All right, let's get into it, because today's episode is personal, really personal. And it's one that has been sitting with me since I first started thinking about topics for this show. Today, we're talking about sleep paralysis. And I'm going to tell you something that happened to me in 2013 that I've never fully been able to explain. It was 2013. I had just started a new relationship. We were a few months in, that early stage where everything is still fresh, still figuring each other out, still in that space where the world feels like a brighter place because there's somebody new in it. We started going to church together, just a normal couple, doing normal couple things, building something. Nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary. Until one night, or maybe it was one evening. Honestly, I'm not completely sure, and I want to be upfront about that. But something happened that I can still feel when I think about it, even now. And here's something I want to say before I describe it, because I think it actually connects directly to what we talked about in episode 3. This is a memory I've gone back to so many times over the years that I've had to be honest with myself about what it actually is at this point. It is a reconstruction. I have recalled it and rebuilt it and recalled it again so many times that I genuinely do not know how much of what I remember is the original experience and how much is the version in my brain that has been building and rebuilding over 11 years of thinking about it. But here's what I know for certain: whatever the original experience was, whatever actually happened that night, it scared me in a way that nothing before or since has matched. That part has not faded. That part has not been reconstructed into something softer. The fear was real and it was immediate and it stayed with me. So here's what I remember. I woke up, or I think I woke up. It still felt like a dream, but also did not feel like a dream. That in between place, that space where you are not fully asleep, but you're not fully awake either. And the line between what is real and what is not has not been drawn yet. And in that space, I saw something: a tall, dark figure, black, almost like a shadow, but with no dimension to it. Not flat against the wall, present in the room. And it was moving toward me, slowly, hovering, not walking, hovering, coming closer. I tried to cry out to God, and I could not. My voice was not there. I could not move. I could not scream. I was completely frozen at this thing that was coming toward me, and there was nothing I could do. I don't remember much after that, just the fear, just waking up fully and the room being empty, and the feeling of what just happened settling over me like something heavy. That experience changed me. I do not say that lightly. Something about it shifted something in how I understood the world. And I have been sitting with questions about it for over a decade. Today, I want to try to answer some of those questions, or at least ask them out loud. What is sleep paralysis? The science. Let me tell you what science says is happening during sleep paralysis, because I think understanding the mechanics actually makes the experience more interesting, not less. When you sleep, your brain cycles through different stages. The deepest and most vivid dreams happens during what is called REM sleep, REM, rapid eye movement sleep. And during REM sleep, your brain does something remarkable. It essentially paralyzes your body, every voluntary muscle, your arms, your legs, your core gets switched off. The signal from your brain to your muscles gets blocked. You are physically unable to move. The reason it does this is actually logical. Your brain is generating a vivid experience during dreams. It is doing things, going places, feeling things. And if your muscles were active during all of that, you would be acting out of your dreams in real life every single night. The paralysis is a protective mechanism. It keeps you from falling out of bed, running into walls, or hurting yourself or the person next to you while your brain is off somewhere else. Now, here's where sleep paralysis happens. Sometimes, during the transition between REM sleep and waking, the paralysis does not release cleanly. Your conscious mind wakes up, your awareness mind comes back online, but the signal blocking your muscles has not lifted yet. So you are awake, aware of the room, aware of yourself, but completely unable to move, unable to speak, pinned. This can last anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes. And during that time, because your brain is still partially in REM state, it can generate hallucinations, visual, auditory, physical. The hallucinations during sleep paralysis are not vague and foggy the way regular dreams usually are. They are vivid. They feel absolutely real. You are in your room, in your bed, and there is something there with you. The pressure on the chest, which almost everyone who's experienced sleep paralysis describes as a physical explanation. The muscles that help you breathe are still partially affected, which can create a sensation of something pressing down on you. Your brain detecting that something is wrong kicks into high alert. Threat detection goes into overdrive, and your brain on high alert mode, half dreaming, generates the most threatening image it can produce, which is almost always a dark figure. Every culture on Earth has a name for this. Here's where it stops being just a medical explanation and starts being something I cannot fully rationalize away. Sleep paralysis has been documented across every culture, every continent, every era of recorded human history. And here's what gets me. These cultures had no contact with each other, no internet, no shared media, no way to compare notes, and they all independently describe the same experience, the same figure, the same feeling. In Newfoundland, they called it the old hag. The story was that an old woman would sit on your chest in the night and press all the breath out of you. You would wake up unable to move, suffocating under her weight. In Japan, they called it, and sorry if I butcher this, kanashibari. The word literally means bound in metal. You awake and you cannot move, locked in place, and often there is a presence in the room. In medieval Europe, they called it the nightmare, not the animal. Mare was a spirit, a demon that would set on sleeping people and crush them. This is actually where the word nightmare comes from. It was not originally a figure of speech. It was a little literal description of an experience people believed was happening to them. In the Arabic world, They called it the Jathum, the one who sits on you. Same description. Dark presence, unable to move, weight on the chest. In Zanzibar, they speak of the Popobawa, a shape shifting shadow demon that attacks people in their sleep. Reported experiences align almost exactly with what we call sleep paralysis. In Hmong culture, they speak of Dabsog, a spirit that sits on the chest of the sleeping. And there's something genuinely chilling here. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was a wave of sudden unexplained deaths among Hmong refugees who had relocated to the United States. Healthy young men dying in their sleep with no medical explanation. The community called it Dabsog. Researchers called it sudden, unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. To this day, it is not fully understood. In the American South, there's a tradition of being ridden by a witch. You wake up paralyzed, something on your chest, unable to cry out. Same experience, different name. I want you to sit with that for a moment. All of those people, separated by thousands of miles, by language, by culture, by centuries, and describing the same dark figure, the same paralysis, the same inability to cry out, the same pressure, and the same terror. If this is purely a neurological event, why does every culture's brain dress it in the same costume? Why is the figure almost always dark, almost always tall, almost always coming toward you? Why does the threat feel spiritual in almost every culture account rather than physical? Science can explain the paralysis. Science can explain the hallucinations. What science has a harder time explaining is why the hallucinations are so consistent across cultures that have no connection to each other. That consistency points to something. I'm not sure what, but it points to something. The Shadow People and the Hat Man. I want to take a detour here because it connects directly to what I experienced in 2013. The figure I saw was tall, dark, hovering. When I started researching sleep paralysis and the paranormal more seriously, I kept coming across two specific types of figures that people report. And the description made my stomach drop. The first are called shadow people, dark humanoid figures, usually seen in peripheral vision or in that half awake sense. They are not described as having features, no visible face, no distinguishable details, just a dark shape with presence. Sometimes they hover, sometimes they move. They're reported by people all over the world across different cultural backgrounds, many of whom have never heard the term shadow people before they encounter one. The second is called the Hat Man. This one is particularly widespread. A tall, dark, shadowy male figure wearing what appears to be a wide brimmed hat, sometimes a trench coat. People report seeing him standing at the foot of the bed, in doorways, in the corners of rooms, during sleep paralysis, during the moments of half sleep, or occasionally while fully awake. And here's the thing that I find difficult to dismiss: the descriptions are remarkably consistent. The hat is almost always described the same way. The height is almost always described the same way. And people who have never communicated with each other from different countries describe the same figure in the same level of specific detail. What I saw in 2013, tall, dark, hovering, moving toward me, I'm not going to tell you it was the Hat Man or a shadow person. I don't know what it was. But when I read those descriptions, I felt something. I don't know entirely how to articulate what I felt. A recognition, like reading a description of something you experienced and feeling your own memory respond to it. The spiritual dimension and the detail I cannot explain away. I've been relatively balanced so far between the scientific explanation and the paranormal one. And I want to stay that way because I genuinely do not know where I land. But there is one detail about sleep paralysis experiences, including my own, that I have the hardest time fitting into a purely neurological framework. Across a huge number of reported experiences, people describe trying to call out to God or to Jesus or to a higher power and finding that the experience ends. The paralysis breaks, the figure retreats, the presence leaves. Not in every case, but in enough cases that it is a documented pattern in the sleep paralysis research community. Researchers who study this, even secular ones, acknowledge that this reported response exists. People who pray during the experience, who call on God, who invoke a spiritual authority, frequently report the episode ending in a way that feels different from simply waking up naturally. I tried to cry out to God that night in 2013. I could not find my voice. I could not get the words out. And that inability, the specific inability to call on something sacred in that moment, is the detail that has stayed with me longer than any other part of the experience. I'm not here to tell you what that means. I'm not going to sit here and say it was definitely demonic or definitely spiritual or definitely anything. But I am going to say this: that detail, the calling out of God, the voice not coming and the widespread consistency of that experience across other people's accounts does not feel like something I can fully explain with REM, atonia, and threat response hallucinations. It feels like it's pointing at something that lives in a different category of explanation. And maybe that's the most honest place I can land with this. Some of it I can explain, some of it I cannot. And the parts I cannot explain are the parts that stay with me. The connection nobody talks about: ADHD and sleep paralysis. One more layer before I wrap up, because I would be leaving something important on the table if I did not mention this. Sleep paralysis is significantly more common in people with ADHD. Research has consistently shown up that people with ADHD experience sleep disruption at higher rates: trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, irregular sleep cycles, and yes, higher rates of sleep paralysis. The reasons are connected to how the ADHD brain regulates arousal and transitions between sleep states. The same neurological differences that make it hard to settle a busy mind at bedtime also affect how cleanly the brain moves through the sleep cycle. The transition between REM and walking, the window where sleep paralysis happens, is rougher, less clean, more likely to get stuck. So, for anyone listening who has ADHD and has experienced sleep paralysis, that connection is real. That is documented. You're not imagining things, and you're not uniquely broken. Your brain just navigates sleep differently. And that different navigation occasionally leaves you awake inside a frozen body with your REM hallucinations still running, which, as explanations go, is simultaneously reassuring and not even remotely comforting. All right, that is episode 4. I want to close the same way I open, with gratitude, because I started this episode by telling you how much of this journey has meant to me. And I want to end it the same way. 4 episodes in, every single one has taught me something about the world, about other people, about myself. Episode 1, I found my voice. Episode 2, I found my vulnerability. Episode 3, I found my energy. And episode 4, this one, I found something I did not expect to find. I found that talking about the things that scared me, that changed me, that I have never fully understood, feels like healing, like finally giving those experiences the space that they deserve. That night in 2013 scared the hell out of me. I did not talk about it much. I did not have the framework to talk about it. And sitting here today, walking through it on this mic, connecting it to science and history and culture spirituality, I feel something lighter on the other side of it. Not because I have the answer, I still do not have the answer, but because I asked the question out loud. And I think that matters. If you had your own version of this, your own night, your own dark figure, your own moment of being frozen between worlds, I want you to know you are not alone, not even close. People have been experiencing this since the beginning of recorded human history, whatever it is. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on this ride with me. A new episode tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. I'll talk to you then. As always, stay you, be you, and do you.